civil rights during the period from 1962 to 1972. And of course, we have with us our guest to talk about Representative Fulton in Congress in a real sense during that period from 1962 to 1972, Mr. Robert Pickard. And of course, Mr. Pickard from Tennessee State University, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you for inviting me, Dr. Haney.
And to tell you how delighted we are to have you here, Professor Pickard, because people often do not think in terms of many of our contemporary representatives being very, very significant, but I think that in dealing with Representative Fulton, you've identified a very, very significant individual, and especially a significant individual dealing with the civil rights movement. And so that's what we'd like to talk about, Mr. Fulton and civil rights from 1962 to 1972. But before we get into that, Professor Pickard, let's see if we can have you to talk about Professor Pickard in a real sense, to have you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of eventually leading you to Tennessee State University, and then we'll talk about Representative Fulton and civil rights.
Well, Dr. Haney, I grew up in Nashville. I was born and raised here. And I grew up in the Waverly-Belmont area first, and then we moved when I was in high school over to the Green Hills area. And I'm entirely locally educated. I went to MTSU and graduated there in international relations. Then I went to graduate school at Eastern Michigan University, got a master's in history there, and master's in public administration at George Washington University, concentrating in public policy. And I spent a number of years overseas. I was in the Peace Corps for 2 years in the Philippines, where I met my wife, Mila. We've been married 30 years this year. And after Peace Corps, we worked for a while in the refugee camp at Bataan, Philippines, teaching Indo-Chinese refugees, Laotian, Cambodian, Vietnamese, and Chinese from all countries. And many people were resettling at that time here in Nashville, so I met some people I later encountered here. We moved on to Somalia. I worked for the United Nations High Commission for Refugees there, UNHCR, and I did administrative work. I managed a field office and set up the field office for them there. Came back to Washington, D.C., where I lived for about 10 years, and I was well, I was doing a number of things there. I worked on refugee programs with Catholic Charities, and also I did some political work as a political consultant for a while, and wound up moving back to Nashville in 1994. It's a great place to live.
Okay.
And I've been teaching at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State, since 2003, and we've been